There. Microphone connects to this. It's just the placement.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first in-person meeting of the Public Safety and Justice Committee since, about March of 2020. It is wonderful to see some familiar faces, some new faces on the dais. So we will begin with a roll call, which also gives everybody here a chance to see and hear who is on the dais. So when you are ready, Jess.
Vice Chairperson Chavez.
Here.
Chairperson Ellenberg.
I'm here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let's, before we go on to our first item, I would like to take a moment to ask everyone on the dais on both sides to introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, I'm James Gibbon Shapiro, and I'm here for the Office of the District Attorney.
Hi, good morning. Laura Garnett, Chief Probation Officer.
Hi, good morning. Molly O'Neill from the Office of the Public Defender.
Hi, good morning. Eureka Day, Director of Custody Health Services.
Under Sheriff Ken Binder, here for Sheriff Johnson, who's away on training.
Matthew Fisk, Director of Pretrial Services. Good morning.
Good morning, Beth McGowan, Presiding Judge for Santa Clara County.
Morning, Jeff Smith, County Executive.
Good morning, Kavita Narayan, Assistant County Counsel.
Good morning, Casey Halkin, Deputy County Executive.
And good morning, Sylvia Perez McDonald, Director, Independent Defense Counsel Office.
Don't have Javier there. Okay, wonderful. Again, welcome to everyone. I'm particularly excited about my new vice chair. Look forward to working with you in this committee.
Thank you.
Let's move directly to public comment. Public comment is that portion of the agenda set aside for members of the public wishing to address the committee on items not on today's agenda, but within the purview of the committee. And in our new hybrid world, we will begin always with in-person commenters that submit a yellow card, and then move to, oh, we're not hybrid yet. Scratch that entirely. We will do in-person comments, and we'll see how we can adjust that in the future.
I
we have
don't
any-
currently have any requests.
Okay, then we are moving to the consent calendar. And I don't have any changes to the calendar. I would like to hear items 5 and 6 together, if that's all right with you. And do you have any recommended changes? No, thank you. Would you like to make a motion?
So moved.
And I will second that. Any public speakers for consent?
There are none.
All right, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes.
Chairperson Ellenberg?
Yes. Thank you very much. Item 4 is the ATI work group update. And my understanding is that the County Executive's Office is going to offer an update today and moving forward on this item. Hi, Martha.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So again, Martha Wapensky, Deputy County Executive. With me today is Program Manager Veronica Marcello. As you said, our partners from RDA were not able to join us in person for this meeting. And their report is in your packet, and if you'd like me today, I can give you a verbal update or just go straight to questions.
I think a brief update, since it has been quite a while. Thank you.
So I want to focus today on the progress updates for the month of December and then project forward to what the work happening this month. So RDA held the third round of sessions with each of the 3 ATI work groups. And just as a reminder for the group, the 3 groups are intervention at the start, the criminal legal process, and reentry. And so the session 3 discussions in December centered around community engagement, an important perspective. The work objectives were to gather additional input and perspective from stakeholders involved with the system and community members. To that end, a spreadsheet was forwarded to members, the work group members ahead of the sessions to brainstorm ideas for impacted groups they'd like to see engaged through this process and identify potential questions for these groups. The discussion at the December meetings, the work group members developed engagement plans for the identified stakeholders and questions to be asked around each of the focus areas that the work groups had developed. And then the follow-up for the community engagement, the responsible work group members will be expected to act on the plans they've developed and share it with the other work group members during the January and February sessions coming up. Of note from December, the community stakeholder groups identified across all the areas included impacted individuals and consumers, families of impacted individuals, behavioral health services department staff, Superior Court judges, treatment and provider staff, and focus area experts. Then for January, coming up, this will be the 4th round of sessions. The objectives here are to develop the strategies and recommendations for the final report. The work groups will be reviewing best practices and promising models that exist in other jurisdictions. They'll also be developing strategies to define what success would look like for each strategy, and then developing the specific recommendations and action steps for each strategy. And just a brief report, but on behalf of RDA, I do want to express my appreciation also for the work group members, many of whom are here in this room today, for their continued diligent efforts in this work. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Martha. And I know that a number of you are on one or more of the work group committees. And if there's anything you'd like to share in terms of impressions halfway through, productivity of the sessions, any area where there's particular energy, I'm sure we'd all be interested in hearing that.
Yes,
Sylvia
good morning.
Perez.
So One of the things that I observe is that it definitely is a challenge when you have such an immense subject matter that you have to tackle. And there is a challenge in condensing so much, not only input, but then information, and then also to develop new and different approaches and strategies that haven't been tried or that we don't already have. So that's a broad general statement because obviously each subcommittee and each work group has its own challenges, but that's my perspective from the work group that I'm in. And I think the recommendations will seek to reflect that creativity, but, and I'm hopeful that we will get there. But one of the things is that when you are doing something or when you want to do something different and novel, that's where the challenge is. And I think the recommendation will just be a first step. And then it'll be the lessons learned from and the implementation. Because coming up with a broad sweep goal and objective is easy, but the devil's in the details, which is going to be the greatest challenge, which is going to be, this committee's active participation in ensuring that those recommendations actually come to life.
I really appreciate that candor, and I think that that's the challenge every time we set up a committee or a commission or a task force, that a lot of good work is done. People spend time and energy and produce a good product, and then, frankly, it's on us as policymakers to direct that action forward. So I couldn't agree more that coming to a report is not a final piece, but it really is a new starting place to say, this is what we think you should do, and it's based on this expertise and this community involvement, and what are you, board or other body, going to do with this information? So thank you for just really kind of putting a fine point on that.
You're welcome. I will also add that the greatest value, I think, out of these work groups is the community input and the broader stakeholder input, because being in county government and being in leadership and being as a policymaker, we have often the challenge that the criticism from the public, that our ideas come from within and that are not including the input from the outside and from the people that are really affected. And I think this is one of those productive efforts where we really are trying to get the input from those that are affected so that whatever recommendations come out of it do reflect that perspective. In that process, I think it's becoming really evident that it's harder, it's easier said than done in coming up with these solutions. And that, I think, is a great value for us.
I agree with that as well. And in fact, if we don't follow through, then I think each subsequent time we want to gather public input, we have less and less credibility. If folks don't think that we're going to use it, why should they invest their time? So I am very committed to that. I'm looking forward to the final report, which will begin the next phase for us. Thank you so much, Sylvia. Any other thoughts? Supervisor Chavez? Anything on this item? Do we have any public speakers? I don't believe we need a motion or a vote.
That's
so
correct.
We will move to items 5 and 6, which we will hear together as they are directly related. And Under Sheriff Binder, should I start with you, or you have somebody coming down?
Might be.
Thank you, Supervisor. Yes, Lieutenant Nguyen and Captain Asban are here to present on the item.
Good morning, Supervisors Ellenberg and Chavez, and esteemed members of the committee. Again, my name is Michelle Asban. I am the captain overseeing our Jail Reforms Division. Seated next to me is Lieutenant Nguyen, who manages our grievance unit on the day-to-day operations. We submitted our report and are available to present the presentation that was attached to the agenda. And will be available afterwards for questions.
Thank you very much. Do you want Supervisor Chavez to hear the report? Or, okay, let's do that. Thank you.
Good morning. It's nice to see everyone here today. It's been a while. So once again, thank you, Captain, for the introduction, and Undersheriff. And him is Lieutenant Joseph Nguyen, grievance coordinator for the Sheriff's Office. And we present the quarterly report on inmate grievances for quarter 3 of 2022. So our measures of success goals for our grievance unit is to respond to inmate grievances within 30 days or less. Centralized review process to provide consistent and meaningful responses to all inmates. Implement a robust tracking system to analyze and react to complaint trends, which is our ACES tracking system implemented in June of 2017. This is our timeliness goal for the quarter. As you can see, it's broken down by facility and overall. Within the quarter 3 2022, responses were provided back to the complainant with a 95.1% rate of 30 days or less. With the implementation of inmate tablets, we've received an influx of grievances, so that's definitely impacted the percentage rate. However, we do strive for meaningful responses as opposed to a timeliness goal of 30 days or less. So if certain grievances necessitate further investigation, we will continue to achieve the meaningful response and get a thorough response back for the inmate. That's our goal. This is our appeal for the third quarter of 2022. Out of 2,753 grievances submitted, 93 of them were appealed, and that would be a 3.4% rate. This is a quick overview of the trends that we identified during the quarter compared to last quarter of 2021. There's a 5.23% overall increase from last quarter. Last quarter of 2021, that's when we fully implemented inmate tablets to all system-wide in our facility. So comparing last quarter to this quarter, we saw roughly a 5% increase overall throughout all 3 facilities. By facility, Elmwood Men's went up by 20.41%, Elmwood Women's went down 10%, and then the main jail facility went down close to 4%, 3.9%. The top 2 grievance categories for quarter 3, medical, number 1, and commissary at 167. So those 2 categories combined for 21.6% of all grievances submitted for that quarter. For the quarter, each facility's grievance count was compared to its average daily population, which we refer to as ADP for short, to determine the rates of submission. So this is for the main jail facility. This is the Elmwood Men's facility, and this is the women's facility. Broken down, the top 2 categories, we kind of give a trend line to see how it's presented in July, August, and September of quarter 3. Broken down by each subcategory to identify specifically what issues inmates are grieving about. And this is the trend response for commissary as well, as a second highest grief category for the quarter and its subcategories. And that is our report, and we're ready for questions.
Thank you very much. Before we take questions, I'm going to turn to Ron Hansen for the CCLEM report.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, supervisors and committee members. I'm Ron Hansen. I'm a member of the Community Correction and Law Enforcement Committee. The chair is Walter Wilson, as I'm sure you know. If we could go to the presentation, I think, that we have. Perfect, thank you. If we could go to the next slide, please. So the CCLEM committee decided that it was important to look more carefully at the grievance process in our jail. And so we did that. The committee formed a 3-member subcommittee, of which I was the chair, and Michelle Liu and Christine Clifford were other partners on this subcommittee. The BSCC regulations require that every jail have a written policy and procedure whereby any detainee can appeal and have resolved grievances relating to any condition of confinement. So CCLEM members wanted to learn more about our own process, and there, as I said before, thereby we established a subcommittee to do that inquiry. Next, please. The subcommittee met or corresponded with the following folks: the Sheriff's Office Jail Grievance Unit, the folks sitting beside me, the Custody Health Department, the Office of Mediation and Ombud Services, and the Facilities and Fleet Department here in the county. These folks are essentially those who respond to virtually every grievance that is submitted by any jail detainee. In addition, we talked with several folks out of county, including the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Monterey County Sheriff Department, San Benito County Sheriff Department, and the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Department. All of those conversations were very informative and certainly broadened our perspective on various aspects of the jail grievance response in various jurisdictions. Next, please. So there were several key takeaways, and I think you'll find those in the report that is attached to the agenda, which I hope you will find time to read or at least peruse. Every jurisdiction has a unique and usually homegrown grievance system. So there's no similarity. Well, there are some similarities, but there's no standard grievance policy or grievance process throughout California. Depending on the jurisdiction, grievances may be filed by tablet, by paper, or in combination, sometimes even in person. As we've heard earlier today, the grievances here tend to be now more introduced by means of the tablet as opposed to paper. Santa Clara County appears to have a higher jail grievance rate than other California jurisdictions that we talked with. We don't know what a baseline is, what establishes a good grievance rate or a poor grievance rate. The only thing that we could do was to compare those with whom we spoke, and we seem to be here in Santa Clara County a bit higher than any of the other jurisdictions that we spoke with. Grievance data collection and what the data is used for varies widely between jurisdictions, and some use it to inform changes in policy or procedures. Others collect it and put it in a file. So what one does with that data varies again very widely. Some jurisdictions establish a 15-day grievance response goal. Here it's 30 days, and according to the report, better than 95% of responses are delivered within that 30-day window. The 15-day grievance window, just as a side note, is in a neighboring jurisdiction, and they have about a 75 to 80% compliance with their 15-day goal. So that difference in how quickly grievances are responded to informed one of our recommendations that we'll cover shortly. Of the jurisdictions contacted, none directly measure detainee grievance satisfaction. And we feel that this is really an important matter. There are a number of inferences made by means of the data, but there is no jurisdiction that measures grievance satisfaction directly. However, all jurisdictions assume that if you keep your appeal rate low, that is less than perhaps 5%, that somehow implies a satisfaction with the grievance process. I'm not sure I believe that, but nevertheless, that is typically the understanding that various grievance units have. Next slide, please. The Sheriff's Department, to their credit, created and applied and conducted a grievance satisfaction survey. Unfortunately, it had a little less than 5% participation with the detainees. And so any conclusions that one might draw from that very limited sample are really not definitive. They could be informative, but they certainly don't define anything about our grievance system, unfortunately. There do appear to be opportunities to improve the grievance response efficacy, and I think that's up to how the board, this committee, and the Sheriff's Department would like to change what they're doing to improve that efficacy. Considering the workload, receiving, categorizing, analyzing, and publishing monthly, semi-annual, and committee reports, the four-person Santa Clara County grievance unit appears to our subcommittee to be severely understaffed. It shows because the published grievance information is now up to September. We're about 3 months behind in publishing that data. And anytime that there is an absence in that unit for vacation or for medical reasons, the unit falls further and further behind. And finally, although substantial changes have occurred within the jail system in recent years, the grievance policy has not been reviewed or updated since 2017. A number of changes have occurred, and so I think that's important that the Sheriff's Department addresses that. Next slide. So we had 3 commendations from the subcommittee, and I want to say that the commendations as well as the recommendations were all reviewed and approved by CCLEM itself, so this is not only the opinion of the subcommittee. First of all, and I've noted this before in my own personal comments to this body, the Sheriff's Office here in Santa Clara County appears to provide more publicly available grievance information than any other California jurisdiction. And I really want to emphasize that that's a really important thing. The grievance unit also reports that grievance response is delivered within 30 days to more than 98% of the grievances filed. The number changes a little bit, but again, this is very commendable. Also, the courteous tone of grievance responses authored especially by Custody Health, we think is a model that should be duplicated by all the agencies affiliated with the county's jail system. This is Fleet and Facility, as well as other areas within the jail system. Next slide. There were several recommendations. Number 1 is to increase the number of grievance unit analysts and also assign them in response to the volume of grievances that are coming from each facility. Secondly, to document the training requirements and processes for the grievance unit analysis. Third, currently that training is primarily on-the-job training as opposed to a documented training. We think that's important for consistency's sake. Also, review and update the Sheriff's policy, as I mentioned before, to include changes that have recently occurred with respect to the grievance policy. In the grievance unit's quarterly and semi-annual reporting, include percent responses within 1 or 2 other time periods, perhaps less than 30 days. That will show us really, truly how quickly grievance responses are delivered. If they all come within 25 to 30 days, that's important to know. If some or a large variety come back to the detainee within, say, 15 days, that's something that we should work on and build on. Based on the results from the grievance unit, in collaboration with Custody Health, investigate and report the causes of the detained women consistently submitting grievances at a rate of 2.5 to 3.3 times greater than detained men. This has been a long time issue, and it seems to still be with us today. But however, based on the results of that recommendation, I'm sorry, this is an error, it should be recommendation 6, the grievance unit, in collaboration with all the other areas, especially custody health, established a mitigation plan to address the underlying causes of the disparity between these grievance rates. It may not be that the women grieve too much. It may be that the men don't grieve enough. So it's important to keep an open mind as how this is investigated. And finally, the grievance unit and custody health should jointly discuss medical grievance subcategories. There seemed to be some discrepancy between how those were categorized, and at least this should be agreed on and resolved. Next slide. Sorry that this is so long, but I think all of these recommendations are important. Lastly, and this has to do really with the appeals. There was some indication from the small amount of survey results that came in questioning the fairness of the appeals that were decided. And so our recommendation was to engage either OCLIM or an independent third party to audit and perhaps even oversee the appeal process for grievances, to try to get an independent third party's viewpoint on this. In addition, we think it's important to do a survey on at least an annual basis, if not more frequently, to determine what the detainee's view is of the grievance process and its fairness. And then finally, to include the Inmate Advisory Council, which has been dormant for the last at least couple of years, in the creation, planning, and results review of future surveys. So that concludes our recommendations and our report, and I welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you, Ron. Jess, do we have any public speakers?
We do not.
Thank you. I'll start with you, Ron. Just want to thank the subcommittee very, very much for this report. Gratitude to you as well as to Michelle Liu and Christine Clifford, who worked together really over the course of a year to compile the 35 pages of research and analysis that we have before us. I really want to commend the dedication of our committee members who do this work not for pay, clearly, but because you feel a personal commitment to be part of it. And whether it's this committee or the ATI work groups, the engagement of members of the public really helps us ensure that county government is run as it should be, transparently and accountable to the community. I also want to thank the Sheriff's Office Grievance Unit for your cooperation with CCLEM in gathering information for the report. I want to highlight the commendations that CCLEM made, noting especially that the Sheriff's Office provides more publicly available grievance information than any other California jurisdiction. I know that we've had concerns with transparency with the Sheriff's Office in the past, and it was really encouraging and gratifying to be reminded that regardless of who was leading the organization, we have had and we continue to have good people working in the Sheriff's Office who are committed to being accountable to those that we serve, and that ethic really shines through in instances like these. Turning to the recommendations themselves, given that they're all directed toward the Sheriff's Office, I'd like to turn either to those of you on the dais or under Sheriff Binder for an opportunity to share how you think you might respond to the findings.
Thank you. First of all, the Sheriff's Office wants to acknowledge the work that CCLEM did in this inquiry to the jail grievances. We appreciate you acknowledging the hard work our unit does in the work that they do on a daily basis. For the most part, the Sheriff's Office does agree with the recommendations provided by CCLEM. We are always trying to enhance and improve the work that we do. and we can highlight some of the things that we are doing currently in meeting the recommendations that the CCLEM subcommittee has identified today.
First off, thank you again, Supervisor, for the kind words, and Ron, for your comprehensive presentation. Like Captain Michelle Asman just mentioned, we do agree with the recommendations. A lot of the implementation will take place first quarter of 2023, the report. More specifically, the timeline of the responses. We have to format it. We do have the data, but for consistency, we will start that in the first quarter of 2023 at the PSJC. We are engaging with the Moss Group to do studies, a more comprehensive study with the women's facility in mind. So that will cover a few of Ron's recommendation within the Moss Group scope of work. And with the partnership independent third party, we do have a relationship with the County Office of the Ombuds Mediation. We do currently forward them a list of highest grievers within each quarter. They do meet with, we send the names over. We do send out a letter to each inmate that we feel reaches a certain threshold over a quarter. We do advise them that there is a service within the county. And I believe Francisco mentioned that out of the last list that we sent over is about 20 inmates. I think close to half of them did reach out to Office of Mediation Ombuds for further mediation advice and conflict resolution advice. So we would seek out the Office of Mediation Ombuds for to look over, possibly monitor our grievance appeal process.
Lieutenant Nguyen, may I interrupt to ask a question about the high rate grievers?
Yes.
Do they tend to be people who have many grievances on lots of topics, or a grievance that is not resolved, so they're continuing to
It's a wide range.
Okay.
Yes.
How
And
about-
it's usually our threshold that we have is 10 or more grievances per quarter.
Okay. Thank you.
And that list gets refreshed every single quarter, and we do provide ombuds that list.
Thank you. And I recognize certainly that these recommendations, implementing them would entail significant new work for an already understaffed unit. And I'm wondering if it would be helpful for some combination of CCLEM or your office and OCLEM to do kind of a feasibility analysis, a priority rating, and maybe proposed timeline for recommendations to narrow down which you think should be implemented most urgently. Is that something that would be helpful? And is it something you think CCLEM is best positioned to do, or that you've got the bandwidth to do?
We can certainly explore that, Supervisor Ellenberg. We can have a conversation with CCLEM and discuss it. I know currently right now our unit is understaffed, and we're taking steps to project out or actually add more analysts to the unit, as well as office specialists to help in the day-to-day work. So hopefully we can provide that to the fiscal year 24 budget.
Great, thank you. Captain Asban. Do they need to be badged positions?
They will be non-professional staff, non-badge.
Non-badged positions. So hopefully with a faster hiring timeline. I know how long the deputy position is. And also, Lieutenant Nguyen, you mentioned that going forward, we can expect reports on implementation of the recommendations as part of these reports?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you all
Yes.
so much.
Sorry, one more thing. Yes. We wanted to inform the committee that we may see a potential increase in grievances for the first quarter of this year. This is in part that our commissary vendor has informed us recently of an increase in their commissary item prices. They informed our office and procurement. As you know, that the pandemic has disrupted nearly every part of the food supply chain, so our vendor is not immune to that. And our office has been working with procurement on this matter to ensure that the inmates receive the best prices. and procurement has taken steps to make sure that the price increase is justified. Not all goods on the vendor's commissary menu are affected. There are reductions in pricing on some of the items on the menu, but the Sheriff's Office will make the necessary steps in informing the inmates. We will monitor this matter with procurement to renegotiate with the vendor when there is a trend, when the prices of food prices decline, and we'll report back to this committee on any noteworthy information.
Great. Thank you very much, Captain.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Chavez.
Thank you. I'll start with commissary. I would be very interested in whatever those changes are being sunshined, both either at this committee or at the full board. And the reason, Supervisor Ellenberg, I'll just raise is that the commissary contracts to me are not unlike the folks who were responsible for inmate phone calls. I think it's a really predatory industry and would like to make sure that we have a more robust discussion about that here. The second thing is that it actually brings me to another question that I'm curious about. As you all look at the complaints, for example, with commissary, and I saw they were broken down as to not receiving items or items coming late, what is the conversation that happens between the custody staff and the contractor? This is a contract that, from a satisfaction perspective, we have clients, we have a contract, and in some instances it appears they're not living up to the standards that we set in the contract.
Thank you, Supervisor, for that. Regarding the conversations between the Sheriff's Office and our vendor, we work directly with them on a day-to-day basis. Their office is actually in the same office area as ours. All issues are brought up on a day-to-day basis. So I guess since COVID, they've had a hiring issue. So our deputies in our facilities are providing the commissary distribution process for the commissary vendor. So when COVID first started, we actually eliminated all vendors from coming into the facility because of potential virus spreading and equipment touching and all that. So they actually had to let go of all of their staff. So hiring back the staff, that's the struggle that they're facing. We are exploring different options, but our deputies are actually out of nowhere, just like this, had to pick up and provide the service for the inmates for the last 2.5 years. So a lot of the issues that came up during the last quarter, it wasn't our deputies' distribution process. It was missing packages that the vendor did not have. It was kind of one-off situations. Regardless, the vendor did provide credits back to the inmates. They are vamping up their hiring process, and we are actually looking at digital capturing devices. So when the vendor, when they do return back into the facility, which is hopefully in a month or two, credits can be given on the spot. For some reason, Santa Clara County, we're still paper-based system even with our vendor, and they have banker boxes just piled up in their office. But every other facility that they manage have a digital tracking device that they bring into the facility for inmates to sign and to issue credits. So we explore that option. That's something that they will implement hopefully in the next month. So hopefully all of the issues will start to decline, minus the commissary pricing raises that Captain just mentioned.
Did we adjust our contract when we, lowering how much we were paying in the contract, given that we were staffing it with, I would say, pretty expensive staff that we invest in?
We could work with procurement, and at this time, to my knowledge, I'm not aware that there were any adjustments to the contract.
Yeah,
As
I'm
you know,
certain of it. So, and I'm sorry, it's just these are two types of contracts that get a little bit of a rise out of me that literally have nothing to do with y'all. So what I would just suggest is that the contract come to committee, that we understand what the vendor did and didn't do, and I'm particularly concerned about it if they're interested in increasing prices, and we're actually the delivery mechanism. So that's one issue. I think the second issue is the point. I'm sorry, you're a captain, Win?
I'm lieutenant, she's a captain.
Okay, I'm sorry. I always get your
Worst.
titles mixed up. I apologize there. But that we have an opportunity to robustly improve the contract if they're interested in making any change to it, including whether or not they owe us money, which they may. And then the other, this brings me to the issue around analysis. And part of the reason I was interested in commissary is it's pretty black and white. There's, your package comes or it doesn't come, the cost or the availability of the product. And so the reason I was asking the question about what analysis is being done is that should feed into any discussion relative to any change to the contract. So my question is there one document that says, based on our experience, based on the client's experience, those who are in custody, that here are the changes that we need to make to the contract, and here's when we sit down with the contractor what we're going to request? And if not, and maybe Sheriff Bender, this is more of a question for you, whose job is that? And it really speaks to the point you raised about needing more analysts. I understand that, but for this very particular one, it's a contract, pretty clear what our expectations are, pretty clear what their performance measures are. How does the feedback we get from our clients and our staff get fed into the analysis of the contract?
Sure, and we would obviously be working with procurement in terms of holding their feet to the fire to deliver on what they've said they would deliver on. So it would be, I mean, obviously for this particular issue, our staff work directly with the vendor on site to try to troubleshoot and uphold the quality control standards. But if it gets to the point where that is not successful, then the next step would be to work with procurement and county council regarding the terms of the contract.
So what I would be interested in seeing, and I think this aligns with what Supervisor Ellenberg was requesting, is the process map by which there's an analysis of the grievances we're getting, irrespective of the category, and then the work plan, like who's responsible for making the implemented changes quickly. And again, the reason I'm using the commissary contract, it's the easiest one, I think, of all the discussions we're going to have because the performance benchmarks are so different. But I think that's even true for, and I know Dr. Day's been doing incredible work on the medical side, but it's even true there. If people are complaining about access, that's a discussion that there should be some analysis that explains there's an access problem, and then what is the problem, and who's responsible for fixing it. So I think that for me, that to me is really the biggest aha out of this discussion, is that lack of analysis and then how it gets tricked or moved into an action plan for the jails in general. So I'm in agreement with that.
Want to make a motion to bring that back for discussion at
Well,
the
the
next
commissary
committee meeting?
contract, you bet.
Yeah.
Bring that back.
Okay, and we can invite
Yeah.
someone from procurement to come along as well to be part of
But
the
on the,
presentation.
I guess the body of work that you're asking from the team to take a look at is, I'm really interested in how you just integrate in the changes that we know we need to make. It's part of continuous improvement. It's part of all of the changes that we're looking at just as becoming stronger institutions overall in the county. And so anyway, I would be interested in having that. As this all comes back, I'm particularly interested in that. And then on the analyst part, I assume analysts have to have significant background checks if they're working in this area. Is that accurate?
That's correct. If they're going to be employed with the sheriff's office, they'll go through the normal backgrounding process.
Got it. And so while it's faster than, for example, a sheriff, it's not speedy.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to set expectations there. All right. And we want those to be done well. So, and then lastly, I'm curious with Ron's presentation, was this did you all have a chance to meet beforehand and review each other's presentations?
Yeah, the, the presentation as well as the report itself was delivered to the sheriff's office. They had a couple of comments recommending some modifications, which the subcommittee and CCLEM agreed to include. So what you have in today's agenda has been reviewed by the Sheriff's Department as well.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And I think that's just such a good way to do the work. I mean, not to inhibit what anybody would say at these meetings, but really just having those really honest, thoughtful conversations. Because I think it helps people recognize that we're all trying to get better at the job and that this isn't about attacking people. It's really about, you know, improving the services that we provide. And then the last thing that I would just say is, one, I appreciated all the reports. On this area, I'm also really intrigued with when grievances start to diminish. Why? Like what, you know, again, what are we learning about what we're doing right and well? I think that's equally is something that we should celebrate because it might help us understand how to fast track improvements in other parts of the system. So thank you. And yes, I'd love it. I'll make a motion if that's what you're asking me to do.
I'll be happy to second it, and I really appreciate the way you laid that out, and I hope that it landed as intended, which is that we are here to be supportive and to help you be more effective and efficient in serving people that are required to be in our custody. So bringing us challenges is fine. It's not about any sort of chastisement, but what do you need? What resources do you need? How can we make improvements to better care for the people that we're responsible for? So thank you very much, and thank you for saying it so eloquently.
Thank you. And bring the commissary contract back. That's part of that motion. All right.
We'll get
thank
the
you.
commissary contract. Are there comments from anyone else on the dais on this item?
I do, Supervisor Ellenberg.
Yes, Molly,
if I
thank you.
might. I want to echo what the supervisor said in thanking all of you for the really thorough and comprehensive report. And it is kind of a signature of Santa Clara County that sometimes we collaborate in ways that are unexpected and we try to solve problems together, and it's clear that everybody is trying to make the jail better, so thank you. I had a couple questions. My first is in describing the categories of types of grievance. Can you explain what the category of care is? There was a really high Elmwood Men's, I think it's on packet page 22. Care is one of the categories, and pain is another one. And I was in just trying to understand really, the commissary illustration was helpful because, okay, packages aren't getting, but to detainees, what's happening with the care complaints? What is that exactly?
I'll try to tackle this one. Dr. Day, feel free. You're the expert in your medical grievances. Our analysts are tasked with looking at 32 different categories, and within 32 different categories, there's also about 100 plus subcategories. And that's sometimes the difficult part of having professional staff look at this and never working in the facility before and really dissecting and routing all of the grievances to the correct business unit. One, to get the correct business unit to answer, and two, the most expedited way, because if you incorrectly categorize and subcategorize it and it goes to a different business unit, that's going to delay the process because someone else is going to bounce it back and we're trying to figure it out, right? So, and a lot of the inmates in our custody and care, they provide a 1,500 character limit on their grievances. So dissecting and trying to find the crux of the issue and capturing that and providing it to, let's say, medical staff can be challenging sometimes. So we do reach out to the business units and we do review the grievances, the content, and we do take advice and say, hey, where should this go, which category, which subcategory, to ensure that we capture correctly for stats purposes and to get the response back correctly. So for care, a typical care would be, hey, I did not receive proper care, proper treatment last night from the nurse. Is that something that's consistent, Dr. Day, that would be classified as care?
Okay, and if I may, and thank you for the question, Molly. And we are working with Custody Bureau on the grievance process. As you know, at the beginning and the initial processing, when the grievances come in, they are categorized in these subcommittees that have been in place for many, many years, and they're not categorized by healthcare staff. There are a lot of overlaps. There's a lot of overlaps in pain management, and so there's a naming convention that we're looking at. We've been working with the captain and with the lieutenant on how do we streamline those, and how do we use a naming convention that's consistent with what the grievance says. So we are working on that. We're going to be working more jointly on what that looks like, and sometimes if you don't have a clear understanding of what bucket a grievance may go into, sometimes it will default into care. And so, and that's what we're learning, that sometimes if it's not clear, because, you know, sometimes the grievances are multifaceted, and they may default into a subcategory that may not be consistent with what the grievance intent is. So we are looking at that, and we are looking at the processes on the healthcare side of the house to have dedicated resources to also work in tandem with the grievance process under the Custody ACE program.
Thank you. I certainly understand the difficulty in trying to identify what bucket it goes in and how you describe it. I'm still struggling a little to understand, is it lack of hot water? Is it I didn't get my pills? You know, kind of what's the everyday problem that is resulting in the greatest number of complaints?
And I think if we look at it across the board, we do get medication complaints, but with care primarily, it may be that either, you know, something that the patient is asking for is not happening, the doctor doesn't agree with it. If it's a medication, there's a lot of medication where narcotics, certain narcotics, we on our formulary don't provide. They may have come in with those. So there's a variety of different grievances and how they're categorized under medical, but access to care may be part of it. You know, if they have a subspecialty appointment, that had to be rescheduled because of our hospital, community hospitals, that sometimes is grieved. So there's a variety.
Okay, thank you. And then if I could ask one more question. I could ask about 50, but I'll try to keep it to a lower number. I wanted to ask about the 30-day response time. I know Ron mentioned in the CCLEM report that other jurisdictions are able to respond within 15 days, and I wondered from your perspective, is that a staffing problem, or is it a different kind of problem, like people are spread out and so it's difficult to get to the facility? So my question is, if you had more staff, could you respond sooner, or is that not really the problem?
So our timeliness goal for the grievance unit is a collaboration between everyone involved. So we try to get the grievance entered into the system. That starts the clock, and then it goes to the business units. And if the grievance unit feels that the response is not strong enough or doesn't cover the multifaceted issues that the inmates do express in the grievance, we do send it back to the division or the business unit to clarify, expand on, or address issues that were not covered in the first time. So it's pretty rare to get everything on one shot. Our analysts are tasked to look at every single bullet point and every single issue. So then it goes back to the analyst. The analyst will also provide back to the inmate a overall response. Then it's up to the division to print out, serve, and to ensure effective communication back to the inmate within 30 days. So if the divisions get it in their queue and they do not print it by day 30, then that's considered late. So it's a combination of everyone. So our unit management analysts, they are not just tasked with getting the response, they're also tasked with following up at the very tail end to ensure that the divisions are printing it out and serving back to the inmate. So it's a lot of steps involved. I'm not sure which jurisdiction has the 15 days. Possibly with more staff we can achieve that, but right now with, am I audible? My ear's off. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. There's a ring in my ear. But I guess my point is there's a possibility, but I think one of Ron's recommendation is to really dissect the 5 to 10, 15, 25, 30-day timeliness, which we will start doing that in January, actually Q1 of 2023. And I think once we get the analysis, we can possibly look at that as an option. But we do have that data to kind of dissect where it lands every single month, and then possibly explore that option if that's a possibility and reasonableness to do so.
Thank you. May I ask one more question?
Go right ahead.
This is my last one. You had a really low, and I think this may be a question for you, Ron, but a really low participation rate in the survey, and I think that's too bad because you'd really like to, just like Public Defender's Office wants to hear from their clients, it's hard to get people to participate in surveys, but I'm wondering if there's any plan to kind of increase that by incentivizing participation or any other way, because 5% is not going to give you much feedback.
It wasn't our survey. The Sheriff's Department conducted, generated, and did the survey. So
Through the tablets?
Through the tablets, correct. And paper as well, but as I understand it, but primarily through the tablets. But they can talk further about other ways to perhaps enhance participation.
So for the survey, we did.
Can you turn your microphone on, please?
It's on.
It's on. Can you hear?
That's for yours. It's mic on. There you go.
So thank you for the question. For this survey, we were looking very closely at the participation rate. The survey was available both on the tablet as well as on paper. It was available in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Vietnamese, and that was both on tablet and on paper. We did advertise the survey. We had it advertised on the inmate information channel so that inmates would know where to go to find the survey. Early on in the survey, after a week or week and a half or so, I did look at the participation rate just to see how many were coming in, and we did re-advertise it twice during the 5 weeks that the survey was available. But I did take a look to make sure that there wasn't any one particular unit where we were not receiving responses. We did receive responses from every unit. So it was broadly participated in, but not deeply. Advertising, we could potentially look at incentivizing people to participate through points in the future on their Adovo system. That's something that we could consider. There might be other ways to incentivize as well to increase participation in upcoming surveys as well.
Thank you. Just a final observation. I think that because the CCLEM report indicated that these grievance procedures are sort of homegrown and different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, it really is hard to compare them. I don't know, for example, if the 15-day is a much smaller county or what the quality of their responses are. There's so many factors. A low grievance rate could just mean that it's a huge pain to file a grievance or people don't have faith in that system. So it's really hard to make presumptions, which is why I think the data collection is so incredibly important, and incentives are always a good idea because clearly it wasn't an issue that people didn't know about it, but that they didn't feel that it was important to complete the survey. So thank you all. Are there any other questions? Let's take a vote on the motion.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes.
Chairperson Ellenberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7 is the court staffing plan, and that presentation will also begin with the Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Supervisor. Captain Daniel Rodriguez oversees our court security division. He will be presenting, and we have Paul Pham from the fiscal department if there's any budgetary questions as well.
Hope this is on. Nope. Is this on? No. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Good morning, Supervisor Ellenberg, Supervisor Chavez, Dr. Smith, and all. I'm Captain Dan Rodriguez, the new division commander for the Court Security Division. With me today is Paul Fan, the Financial Administrative Service Manager, and we're here to hopefully had a chance to look over the report, and we could answer any questions that you may have today.
Thank you very much, Captain Rodriguez, and thank you for being available, Paul, for the report. I'd like to make a motion to receive the report and direct the CEO to incorporate the budgetary recommendations into the fiscal year 23-24 budget for consideration by the board in May. I have a few more comments, but want to see if I can get a second. Thank you. I do understand that there are many current vacancies in the sheriff's office, and that at first blush it can seem counterintuitive to increase positions at this time. But I believe that we have a fiduciary duty to allocate the state funds for their intended purposes. And it is certainly undeniable that there are going to be additional responsibilities at the courts, notably with regard to Care Court, AOT, often referred to as Laura's Law, and other behavioral health initiatives. And I think we send a strong message of support for that work by doing everything in our power to help fill those positions. Do you have other comments or questions?
Yes, thank you very much for the report. And I was just curious, and I apologize that I don't know enough about this to know the answer to this, but when we are looking at the classification of sheriff's technician, am I reading that title properly?
Yes, you are.
What's that relative to a sheriff?
They're basically our non-sworn staff, but they have access to all of our software databases, criminal databases, and there's a lot of things that they could do within the courts division. They could watch a jury, except obviously they're non-sworn.
And is that a long-term solution that you want to keep in the mix, or is that something we need in the short term until we're able to hire more robustly?
I think it's long-term. Sometimes there's a high turnover rate with the techs because they go on to become police officers, and it's a stepping stone for a lot of them.
And is that a recruiting tool for us as well?
For the techs, yeah, again, it's usually for a younger person, it's the first stepping stone to get your foot into the door with law enforcement. A lot of them have gone on to become deputy sheriffs.
And then I know that Dr. Smith has worked really closely with the Sheriff's Office and the DSA and other organizations to increase salaries and do more to get laterals. And I know we're all stealing from each other right now, is what a little bit of what it feels like. And it does sound like the academies have more people in them. And I guess what I'm wondering is, do you feel like you're getting are you starting to see an increase in people that are interested? And I'm coupling that with a second question, which is that they're interested in us, and that you are also interested in trying to help become sheriffs.
Yes, I feel we kind of have momentum right now, and just to put it in perspective, we have 16 right now in the courts that are being trained, going through the court training officer program. There's another 17 cadets that are going to start in February, and they'll be there for 6 months. Those numbers may not seem that high, but they're really high for us in this current environment of law enforcement, and so we're doing something right. Again, with the new sheriff, I feel we have momentum, and we're going to be going in a very positive direction.
May I make one more comment? Captain Rodriguez is new to us, and we welcome him at the court. With respect to the technicians, the biggest change the court has made is those technicians are now primarily serving at our metal detectors. Because the number of facilities the court runs, they were originally staffed only by deputies, and as you know, the court can only provide security through the sheriff's office. So at this stage, we now have one deputy at each metal detector to supervise, but the technicians are primarily manning the metal detectors. Our judges have not, and I do not think would at this juncture approve having technicians in the courtroom.
And that, oh, sorry, sure.
Thank you, Supervisor. And if I just might add one more piece to your original comment regarding the lateral hiring efforts, and that has been a joint effort. And proposal is still yet to come before the board, which the sheriff's office is waiting and hoping for. ESA is working with county council and labor relations on that, so we're hopeful. That lateral hiring piece really is critical to give us enough of a jump to start filling some of the vacancies in a more of a meaningful way. But the efforts that have been done thus far on behalf of the county have really been making a difference, and we just feel like this lateral piece would be the final touches for in terms of the sheriff's office doing everything they can to be an attractive agency to be able to fill the positions.
That's really good information. The last question I have, and I'm not sure if this may, Judge McGowan, be a question for you, but I am curious about the last time that we have done a security analysis for the courts. And the reason I'm asking the question is I think you raise a good point about security in the courtroom. I have entered at least a couple of the courthouses, and I've just, as I was looking around, I was intrigued with how many people I saw in one court and how few I saw in another. And so I just wondered, when was the last time an analysis was done? And is that, a security analysis that then dictated in partnership with the courts, between the courts and the sheriff, that this is the level of staffing necessary in these different environments?
I don't know the answer as to when we did the last analysis. I do know that we've talked about our contract quite a bit. The number of deputies required contractually far exceeds the number we receive. We acknowledge with Captain Rodriguez's predecessor that the contractual number, which I think was 160, is not realistic and not what we're asking for. The court has operated pretty successfully with about 120. We're currently receiving in the range of 70, which is why we have accepted and amended our arrangement to accept technicians in manning of the metal detectors. You might recall that 2 courthouses were closed last summer because of lack of deputy staffing. And the shortage of deputies is still the biggest impediment we have to opening courtrooms.
And then the last piece that I would add, just in terms of long range versus short range on the technicians, it'd be a very small percentage that we anticipate long range staying on as part of the effort, and they would be primarily based at the metal detectors. But in terms of personnel inside the courtrooms, the goal is to, when we get our staffing up, to replace those technicians with deputy sheriffs.
Well, one recommendation that I would like you both to consider, and I don't want to make this part of direction, but I just think it would be a valuable conversation, is to take a look at what is the right size and the right roles. And I think the point that Supervisor Ellenberg raised about Care Court coming online, and I think the expansion of the work we're trying to do relative to both behavioral health and drug courts and all of the like, really require us to have a much more, whether it's realistic or not, I think just something that's much more transparent, that says, I thought your point was really well taken, that if we were at 160, we can operate with 120. We're currently operating with 70. What does that mean in terms of that delta for court expansion, and what's the realistic goal we should be trying to hit over the next 3 to 4 years? Because even hearing you say, well, we'll remove these people for these people, I imagine that's year 8 or 9, just based on hiring and routines. So I would just encourage you both to think about that, because I think it would help the county in our efforts to make sure that you have the support that that we're obligated to provide for you.
Sure, absolutely, Supervisor. And then the last piece in terms of bridging that gap, besides technicians, it's also extra help. Deputy sheriffs who have been retired but have worked courts are coming back, working part-time as well. So along with the everything else listed in the report, the overtime and such, but definitely we'll take that into account.
Do we, you just prompted another question through the chair. Do we only have deputy sheriffs who've previously worked in the courts, or would we take retirees from other departments?
We can and do take retirees from other departments. We have a number of San Jose police officers that are currently retired and working in our court system as extra help deputy sheriffs.
Oh, got it. And what's the outreach that's done? Like the minute someone retires, oh, not yet. Hello, here's your retirement package. And, yeah.
It works out. San Jose is obviously the close, large organization, but they have a different retirement system. They're not in the California PERS, which makes this attractive. Most of the other agencies are in PERS, so they can't. So it's a little bit different, but the word of mouth
Can't
spreads.
participate, or they
They can, but and I'm not sure exactly on the legality of the rules, but I just understand that because of San Jose's retirement system, it's very attractive for them to come over and work extra help in our courts.
It might be worth asking ESA just to give you an analysis so that it's something you could share with people who are retiring. Because I think if they can do it under a certain number of hours, they can annually. And it may be
960, yeah.
Yeah, and it may just be worth, especially over the next few years, if it's a way to attract a handful of people, may be of value.
Yep.
And maybe that's something, frankly, as people are retiring from non-CalPERS, from CalPERS agencies here in our county, that it's worth, there's one sheeter that we ask everybody to hand out as people are retiring from public safety as a way to potentially be able to get, again, because even if that resulted in 10 new people a year, even if it's part-time, that could make a big difference.
Every bit helps.
Yeah, thank you very
That's
much.
something that we might share with the chiefs of police of all of the cities as part of and even more so in their unions, to make sure that when people retire from any law enforcement in the county, they're aware of this.
And Supervisor, I just wanted to emphasize that it's not our intention to try to put techs into the courtrooms. They're just there to augment. It would never replace a deputy sheriff. Also, it's very hard. We're having, as you know, nationwide difficulties hiring sworn staff. So we're looking at it, beginning to look at it through a different lens of having more civilians within our organization to see how they could assist us because of that difficulty.
Excellent, thank you. And that's that was clear to me. What really had stood out the most about this report, frankly, was just the underutilization of the state funds. So I'm hoping that we can remedy that in our next budget cycle. Did we have? I don't remember if I asked for public comment.
We have no requests.
Okay, thank you. And I don't believe we had a motion.
We do.
We did? Then let's take a vote on it.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes.
Chairperson Ellenberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 8 is the opportunity for anyone on the dais to offer announcements. I'm going to jump in after James Gibbons Shapiro from the District Attorney's Office. Go ahead, James.
I just wanted to make an announcement that the latest version of the DA's office's Race and Prosecutions Report is on the DA's office website. It got released in December. You go to the DA's office website under Publications and Reports.
Thank you very much. Are there others?
Dr. Smith, is it okay if I announce this, or would you prefer?
Depends on what you're announcing.
Go ahead, I know what she's going to
Yeah,
announce.
go ahead, Laura.
Yours.
So this is my last meeting, which is very bittersweet. I'm glad it was in person. It's great to see everybody. But I couldn't be happier to introduce the new Chief Probation Officer is Nick Burchard, officially January 23rd, and next to him is Mike Sims, who will assume the Assistant Chief role on January 23rd as well. And I couldn't be happier with the appointments there. The department is going to just go bubbling right along. It's going to be great. It was perfect appointments, perfect timing. So thank you.
Judge McGowan.
Thank you. Laura Garnett and I were babies together when we started on this job, and it will be very hard to see you go. Well done. Very well done. I also wanted to introduce the court's new assistant presiding judge, Judge Julie Emity. She's in the audience today. She's supervised our family division. She's also supervised probate. She is moving into family violence in the criminal division next week. She is overseeing right now the move of AOT out of, which is treatment court. It is moving out of our criminal division and into our civil division. It will be headquartered in probate. We were not a county that received Carrick Court funding in the first tranche, so we are preparing and we have proposed that we have a drug court pilot program through the legislature, which looks a lot like Carrick Court. We don't know if we'll be chosen yet, but you had to not be a Carrick Court to be a pilot program court for drug court. So we have, we've put our name in that hat and we very much hope to get it. I also wanted to let behavioral health know that we realize this could be inconvenient for them. So we are committed to finding behavioral health office space in our civil division courthouse downtown so we can provide a full range of therapeutic services through those courts. I think that's all of my announcements for now. Thank you for letting me make them.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone to my left? Chief Garnett, I know we're going to have a number of opportunities to commend and celebrate your leadership, but I can't let the moment go without expressing such extreme gratitude for the personal relationship that we've developed, for the mentoring and education that you have offered, your impact here, your lens and vision of children and how we care for them and support them and return them stronger and healthier and more whole is exemplary. Your respect across the state, particularly around the juvenile justice realignment piece, has also been exemplary and influential. And I have no doubt in the skill and competency and leadership that's to follow you, but you are leaving pretty giant shoes to fill, and I will miss you. My much more mundane announcement is an invitation to all of you to join me on Tuesday, January 31st in this room at 5:15, where it will be my honor to present a State of the County address, and there will be food.
And there was joy. My only announcement is that I wish Laura wasn't leaving. But and no disrespect, you guys are going to be amazing. And frankly, it's a hallmark of your leadership if you do knock it out of the park, right? And so I'm counting on you to do that. But just to say to all of you, anybody who's had a chance to work with Laura has had good arguments with her. You've won some, you've lost some, but you've come out much better for it. And at least I feel like I have. And just thank you for saving people. Really, thank you.
All right, with that, thank you to Jess and the invisible clerks behind us, and we'll adjourn to the next regular meeting on February 10th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Have a wonderful day, everyone.